Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Thomas Schutz with the Palisades Fire, here with the evening briefing community meeting. A quick update on some of the numbers. Acreage is now 21,317 acres, 21,317 acres, and we're at 8% containment. So that means that 8% of the fire perimeter is considered where we don't have to worry about that fire jumping that section of the line. We've cooled it off enough and built that perimeter line. We're going to run down and cover some different topics today. We have our incident meteorologist that's going to come up and talk. We're going to cover our operations folks. They're going to give a nice overview of the operation, where this fire is at. And then we have our commanders coming up and talking about their different roles, both on the fire and law enforcement side. After that, we're going to roll into our question and answer section. So throughout this time, we hope that you're putting some of your questions into the chat. We have folks monitoring the chat. They're going to be grabbing those questions off, compiling them, and doing their best to answer them. We're not going to be able to get to every question, but we're going to do our best to cover the broad range of them. Anything that we don't answer, we're going to put them together in a fact sheet and have that posted up tomorrow. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll go ahead and kick it off to our incident meteorologist.
Good evening, Rich Thompson, incident meteorologist on the Palisades incident. Weather-wise, on my side of things, we're just looking for varying amounts of offshore winds across the area next several days. Fortunately, this afternoon and tonight, we have those north-northeast winds have diminished decently, so it's kind of a little respite for us in terms of the winds. So that's pretty good for tonight. Beginning tomorrow, we're going to see a gradual increase in north-northeast winds across fire tomorrow and tomorrow night. And leading into Sunday, and with that, humidity is going to stay very, very dry, down in the teens. Recoveries at night are going to be very minimal. So therefore, we're going to have another possibility of some more critical fire weather conditions. So therefore, there is now a fire weather watch in effect for this area from 6 p.m. tomorrow evening until 6 p.m. Sunday. And that's for the possibility of critical fire conditions with the winds and the low RH. So once we get through that, then Sunday night, Monday, things, weaken a little bit, but then beginning Monday night through Wednesday, we have a potential for another round of Santa Ana winds. And right now, that Monday night through Wednesday time frame looks like it could be a moderate to even a strong Santa Ana wind event. So you could potentially see gusts in excess of 60 miles an hour across the fire and the Santa Monica's and this whole area in general. So definitely something we're watching in the future there for that Monday night, Wednesday time frame, try and get that all fine-tuned. But again, potential is there for another round of significant Santa Ana winds. But fortunately, those winds, the winds that develop on Monday night through Wednesday are going to be about maybe 60 to 70% of what we saw when this fire took off. So it's not going to be anywhere near as strong as we saw when the fire ignited, but still going to be a pretty strong Santa Ana for this time of year.
Next up, operations.
Good evening, everybody. Christian Litz, operations on the Palisades fire. We're going to start up here in the northeast side of the fire. If you're watching the news right now, that's a little bit of activity happening right here around that Sullivan Fire Road as it moving into the Sullivan Canyon towards Mandeville Canyon, which is this canyon right here. So crews today all day have worked that using fixed swing retardant, getting in there, looking for opportunity, goes direct. With the change of conditions that happen, you see that flare up on the news, and we are getting some activity. Resources are already engaging, building that plan, going direct where they can, utilizing water dropping copters right now for the night operations as we move in, and then preparing for the future with some structured defense in the Mandeville Canyon area and also south side of that. Coming around as we move south into the Riviera here that you see, we're on the Santa Monica side of the fire in the southeast there. Resources have been combing that area in there, tactically patrolling everything, getting in deep, going to the structures, working around them, make sure that there's no more heat that has any possibility to get into those structures, to make sure there's no adverse fire effects to those structures along there. Into the Palisades, same thing, and moving up to up Palisades Drive and Temescal Canyon. Again, resources all day. We're flooding the streets, patrolling, using that, mitigating any heat sources that they see. We're also using alternate tactics, a UAS, which is a drone with IR capability, getting in there, trying to find those heat sources so that we can do diligent work and put that out. As we come around the Topanga Beach side, coming around to Las Flores over into the Malibu communities, same thing, resources are in there, mopping up, overhauling around the structures, and doing everything they can. Just keep working all day to mitigate any issues that they find. Over here you see black on the line. That means we feel comfortable. This is where it's butted up against the Franklin fire. So no activity, looks really good. Coming up to the Montanito area. Very happy with the work that was put in today. Weather on that side was in our favor. Resources were going direct, which when we say direct, that means they are going directly on the edge of the fire and keeping the fire to the smallest footprint as possible with hand crews, engines, hoses, and they're getting there. Utilizing, again, aircraft, particularly helicopters, to hold it in place while the crews work up the ridge system and put that line in there, trying to keep that small footprint. Come around top, this is a Saddle Peak area, and the Payuma to Saddle Peak. Looks good up here. Still having resources in the area, making sure that we see where it is, securing edges where we can, looking for secondary lines. Again, planning for the small footprint, preparing for anything else when the events change or situations change on us. People were asking about the Topanga Canyon area. We did have some activity in Topanga Canyon underneath the community of Fernwood. We used aircraft. Pretty impressive to watch a C-130 drop retardant as it drops in and puts that thick retardant line in there to help our ground resources as we work around that southern edge of those resources or the structures to build a defense in there. And then after that, we slowed that down, moderated the fire behavior in there, and then crews went direct along the line, both engine crews and hand crews working that in. Doing structure prep up in the Topanga Canyon area as that fire is backing down on the east side of Topanga Canyon so that we can prepare those structures and get ready for that. On the north side, we did have some activities. Again, there's some up in the Topanga Oaks area up here moving above Fernwood. Resources are in there, going around the structures, responding to any service calls that they have, and mitigate any issues that they find. And then coming around the top side, where you see Sullivan Park on the map, but coming on the north side of this fire, still working that fire as direct as possible. Very steep in there, very thick fuels all along this side that you see. Fire activity hasn't been there in a long time. So the things that we do is aircraft, right? Aircraft is our biggest asset that we had all day. We had multiple large air tankers out there dropping retardant continually for the last couple of days on that northeastern side and the north side to make that in. We're using aircraft at the same time, the rotor wing, which is the helicopters that can drop retardant, can drop water, using them to the maximum capability to help us slow that process in, allow the ground resources again to work those fire edges as much as possible and try to limit that fire progression. Again, I mentioned drones. We use UASs. We call them unmanned drones. We use those drones to pinpoint IR, give us good intel where we can actually send crews to mitigate. Now, what you do here, you might hear some civilians flying drones. I just want you to know that is a very dangerous situation for us because anytime a civilian is out there flying a drone, we have to pull back operational aircraft. So we want to make it very important that we stop flying private drones so that we can keep our operational aircraft engaged at all time to keep the footprint down and as low as possible that we have. We still working at a contingency. Contingency means we're building extra lines outside of the fire perimeter. It's like another layer of preparation for fire growth, just in case. And we know, and you just heard from the IMET, the changes in the weather and the conditions. We're constantly battling the different situations, the fuel, the topography, and the weather that we're battling. Thank you very much for the support that you've given us, and we're going to continue to work every day diligently to protect the public and the structures that are out there. Thank you.
Next up, LA City Fire.
Good evening, everybody. Joe Everett, Unified Incident Commander, Assistant Chief, Los Angeles City Fire Department. Again, I want to give my heartfelt feelings towards the people of Los Angeles and the surrounding communities in Malibu and the surrounding communities beyond that have had so much devastation and destruction. My heart does go out to you. This is the area I serve. That being said, we will continue to serve that area to the best of our abilities. That being said, I ask that you support our firefighters that are in that area and working, maintain that evacuation area so we can get in there and get some work. Together we're going to get through this, people. I'll be there with you, and I'll have a large contingency of LAFD resources. You'll see LAFD at the top of their hat, along with our brothers and sisters from the county, surrounding counties, throughout the state and surrounding states. They're all here to serve you. Thank you.
Next up, LAPD.
Good evening, everyone. Commander Randy Goddard, LAPD Incident Commander. Like my colleague at AFD, I used to be the captain at West Los Angeles. I'm very familiar with the Palisades community. It's a wonderful community. I know they'll come back and rebuild. My thoughts and prayers are with all of you. LAPD's role in this is to support our fire partners with the resources. I want to remind everybody that there is still a mandatory evacuation, which means it makes our jobs easier for my officers and for the fire personnel to do their job. Please stay out of the area. Don't come to the area. We will give you real-time information when that time comes, when we're going to start looking at repopulation, but that time has not come, so please stay away. Right now, LAPD's mission, we're doing 4 things. We're doing crime suppression to make sure that no looting or burglaries are going on when your homes are not occupied. We've got a lot of officers out there. We've got officers from not only from operations, but also from our specialized metropolitan division that are out there doing crime suppressions. We're doing vehicle and pedestrian control, escort support, and we're also doing welfare checks. So, as far as our resources, right now LAPD has 251 sworn police officers out there in the area monitoring all these different missions. We also have our off-road unit personnel that are out in the off-roads and the fire roads, making sure that nobody's double backing on us to get into the area and keeping all those PEDs off of those areas. We've had 94 calls for service related to possible trespass, looting, and theft in mandatory evacuation zone. There's been no related arrests, and none of those radio calls have come out to be criminal acts. 2 significant notes, just to show you that we are out there, we are being vigilant. Some officers did observe a vandalism suspect, spray paint an ABC news van. That person was taken into custody and was booked for felony vandalism and transported to our local West LA station. Also, just to show you some of the more compassionate stuff, we've got we had some social media that we're monitoring. Ultimately, we responded to a dog tied to a fence at a residence. We had some officers go out there, take custody of the dog, and turn that over to our local animal shelter to try to reunite that dog with an owner. That's about it. That's the end of my report.
Next up, LA County Fire.
Good evening. My name is Robert Harris. I am your Deputy Fire Chief for Los Angeles County Fire Department and one of the Unified Incident Commanders. Again, I just want to share my colleagues' sentiment about just the sorrow that we feel as firefighters for all of the damage and just the destruction, and in some cases loss of life related to this incident. But I just want to reassure you that the firefighters are on scene, fully committed and doing everything possible to ensure that we're supporting the community. But we do have one request. We ask that you please heed the evacuation warnings. We still do have residents that are in the area, and in some cases impeding the firefighting effort. So please watch out for the firefighters if you are still going to remain in the area, but if at all possible, please heed the warning and evacuate the area. We do still have some active firefighting going on, and we're doing our very best to extinguish any small fires that may still exist within the footprint, but still there's work to do. So please help us so that we can get this fire out and get you back into the area as soon as possible when it's safe. Last thing that I would just say on this point here is this. You know, we're doing our very best to get factual information out as quick as possible. I know there's a lot of things that are going on out there, but please just be assured that we are doing our best to meet the need of the community, because we do care about the community that we serve. Thank you.
Next up, LA County Sheriff.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Cruz. I'm the captain the incident commander here at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department Incident Management Team. Like my partner, Commander Goodard said, the mandatory evacuation, or the curfew, I'm sorry, for the mandatory evacuation zone went into effect 6 p.m. today and will end at 6 a.m. Tomorrow morning. It's a 6 to 6 curfew until further notice. Only disaster workers, credentialed media, and essential personnel will be exempt from the curfew. We ask that you please follow this curfew. It's important for law enforcement to safeguard the property of our residents. Currently, the Sheriff's Department is providing looter suppression, evacuations, road closures, limited humanitarian relief, and roving and security patrols. Thank you.
With that, we'll roll into our question and answer session. This is in real time, so there might be a slight delay while they're reading the question and providing the appropriate response. So what we'll do is we'll call up the appropriate person to answer said question. They will read the question and then answer that question to the best of their ability. Again, if your question is not answered, we will compile all those and put those out in a fact sheet tomorrow.
Good evening again, Christian Litz Operations. Have a few questions I can answer for you. So hot topic is always how much aircraft is on the incident. So just today alone, we had 11 air tankers that are fixed wing airplanes that are dropping retardant over the fire, and 33 helicopters that worked the fire today. Sometimes people are saying they don't see and they didn't see how many aircraft. That's a lot of aircraft. Just remember, with fixed wing and helicopters can't work in the same area, so sometimes there's a pause where the fixed wing come in, drop retardant, and then we'll circle in helicopters to come in. Also, helicopters, we use them, we call it point protection, where they can come in and pinpoint exactly where they're going to drop, so they come and work in a lower elevation than the fixed wing. So sometimes from some of your locations, you're not seeing the work being done by the helicopters, but they are out there dropping continuously all day, and then we're even using them into the night on a heavy aspect. This question was the fire department aware the Highlands Reservoir was depleted? We are on constant monitoring all the water sources that we are using. We have an air operations branch director that is on top of it and paying attention to all the water sources, constantly shifting from water source to water source. We do understand that some water sources deplete where they can't refill, so we constantly move and shift so that our aircraft continue to work throughout the incident to keep us safe and work the fire's edge. Couple questions from communities. They're asking, is there a threat to Tarzana and a threat to Encino? So those communities closer to the 101 freeway, I never say there's no threat because we don't know what the fire activity is going to bring us with the weather, with the field activity. However, right now, if you are not in a warning, you have nothing to worry about. You can pay attention to the news. Listening to this is a great place to come in online to get some information on that. As that fire, we have these decision points that we have. When the fire hits a certain place, then we move our orders up and our warnings to another situation. So right now, we're working very hard to keep that fire in the current footprint or limit the growth to the north, which would be going up to Tarzana and Encino. So just pay attention to the news, pay attention to the alerts that come out. The PIOs are doing a tremendous job to get that universal message out. They're a great resource for that information as it comes forth. Thank you.
Good evening again. The question states, how long will it take to get into the Pacific Palisades to see damage? Unfortunately, right now, it's incredibly dangerous in there. We are still actively fighting fire in and around the Pacific Palisades area. That being said, it's going to be a while before we can get people in there. However, just know that we are working very, very diligently to overcome some of those safety issues, and we are working on plans on how we're going to get people back in there, most likely escorted by researchers such as us. I don't have a hard, fast answer for you. That's the best I can give you right now, but we are working around the clock to get that to the point where we can get people back in there. I understand your concern, and that's a good question.
All right, Commander Goddard, LAPD again. The question is, can I access with identification? And unfortunately, the answer is no. Right now, we are not allowing anybody into the area except for emergency personnel. However, when that changes, we will make sure that the community knows that, and at that time, we'll be opening up to community members with identification, but we wait for fire department to make that determination when it's safe to do so.
Christian Litz operation. One more question here. Status of Payuma and Montanito. Just coming over here. That's going to be our northwestern edge of the fire. You see the community of Montanito up there. I spoke a little bit earlier. I'll get a little bit more in depth. The fire is on the Payuma Ridge system. There is direct line. So with the working of the aircraft and moderating that spread, we were able to put dozers, hand crews, going direct on that line. When we were out there driving around, my partner Landon Hack from CAL FIRE, we were out there driving that area. What we saw was the fire activity was in our favor with the wind, allowing those crews to go direct. So we were very happy with the work that we saw out there today. Again, we're going to maintain that pressure on that edge to lock that in, to secure that edge around the Montanito area. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the great questions. And again, if your question wasn't answered, we will compile those and answer those in tomorrow's fact sheet on our social media. We ask that you continue to follow the official channels for updates on this incident. LA County Fire, LA City Fire, and CAL FIRE all will continue to provide updates. And we will have a town hall meeting, community meeting rather, again tomorrow at 6:30. We'll still have the virtual option, so you can join us virtually again at 6:30 tomorrow. But we also have an in-person option. So if you'd like to join us in person for this community meeting, I'd like to read out the address for you to join us. It's going to be at Calvary Westlake. The address is 5495 Via Rocas. This is in Westlake Village. And again, that's going to be at 6:30. So please plan accordingly for traffic to get there and get situated. But we hope to see you either virtually or in person tomorrow at 6:30. Thank you and have a great evening.